that the media seems to have a lot of strong opinions about Paris, with some being positive and others being very critical. I'm French, I live in Paris, and today I want to give you my opinion on what's true and what's false. Starting with the first myth that Paris is the most romantic place on earth. And you're probably already aware of this one, we see it everywhere on social media. And don't get me wrong, there are things that are totally magical in Paris. Like for example, it snowed recently, and like pretty much everyone, I decided to go to the park near my house to take some pictures. And it was really cool. There were so many people, children and adults, playing in the snow. And these are the tiny moments that really make me love my city. But since we're not in a Hallmark movie about Paris, the next day I can guarantee you that this beautiful white snow has turned into black sludge like in any other big city. And while it's totally okay to romanticize your everyday life, you have to remember that Paris is a real city with real people, so things are not gonna be always picture perfect. And if you can't handle the reality of a big city, the truth is that there's maybe better vacation options for you than going to a big city. Like for example, go to the French Pavilion in Disney World instead of coming to Paris. And by the way, I used to be way more critical of this media myth in the past, but since then I've discovered the other media myths I'm gonna tell you about, and I have to say that they are way worse. Like for example, our next one that I see all the time is that Paris is overrun by scams. And guys, breaking news, Paris is a very touristy city, and touristy cities attract scams. And there are scams pretty much in every tourist area all around the world. Like for example, in NYC, there's the fake monks and Times Square characters, and everyone knows not to engage with them. If you're from a big city, you'll most likely be fine. Paris is no different from any other big city around the world. But if you're from the countryside or a rich suburb, just Google most common scams before coming to Paris and just do not engage with them. Like for example, if you go and play the cup game, which is a known scam all around the world, then don't be surprised if you lose your money. But as you'll see, making a Paris scam video is a sure way to get views. And I know that a lot of the content creators who make scam videos actually do engage with the scammers to try to get a reaction out of them. So here I feel that things are a bit blown out of proportion. And often those viral scams are very easy to avoid. Like recently, French newspaper Le Parisien made a video that got a lot of attention about how Paris restaurants overcharge American tourists. So basically it's a French guy that dresses up as an American tourist and then goes to restaurants that are in touristy areas and then discovers that people overcharge him by pushing expensive items like bottled water or a giant cup of Coca-Cola. And this got a lot of attention online, and I've personally watched the video and I like the work he's doing, but I just have two comments. First, I don't think that anyone French can believe he's American. Like my French radar is so activated just by seeing him. He looks so French, but most importantly, he was only in touristy areas, not in local restaurants. And most people know better than to eat near a major monument. It's literally my first tip in my 12 things to avoid in Paris video. Like for example, you wouldn't eat in Times Square in NYC because you would get similarly overcharged. So just don't eat in touristy areas. It's that simple. And to avoid this, I have a Paris food map with over 300 places I've tried and loved, and I can guarantee you that none of these places will overcharge you. The one point of this video I really agree with though is tipping. So in France, you do not need to tip, but recently more and more restaurants have been encouraging you to tip. And apparently in this video, he discovers that some restaurants in touristy areas even add a tip to the bill, when this is not a thing in France. So if you ever see a service charge on your bill in France, just refuse to pay it. And also, please do not tip. You think you're being nice, but you're actually disrupting our economy. Waiters are well paid, they have health insurance, and we want things to stay this way. So if you really like the service, you can leave a €2 coin on the table or give some money directly to your waiter. Okay, so now let's move on to our next media myth, which is that Paris is very beautiful. And you'll see we're gonna alternate negative and positive media myths. And for this one, I wanna say that it's true, but it's not the whole story. So when you think of living in Paris, you think of living in a place like this. So beautiful old building that's historical and that has a specific aesthetic. And most likely, if you move to Paris, you're gonna probably live in a place like this, because most people who live in Paris actually don't live in the city of Paris proper, but more in the suburbs. Just to give you an example, there's around 7 million people in the Paris area, and only 2 million of these live in Paris. So most people will probably end up in the burbs anyway. And if you end up living in Paris, it's pretty expensive in the city center, so you're probably not even gonna live there. And if you do end up living in one of those fancy historical apartments, just know that there are many issues too. They need constant repair and maintenance. Their walls are thin, they can have humidity issues, and they are very, 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 very hot in summer, especially if you live on the last floor. But it is true that when you live in Paris, you're bound to see very beautiful things if you know how to appreciate them. Like, for example, the other day I was riding my bike, so I was just coming back home from the Louvre. It's a really random day, nothing out of the ordinary. I was at a red light, and then what do I see? The Eiffel Tower sparkling. Obviously, it's very beautiful. I stopped, I took a video, but it's just so beautiful that I had to stop and appreciate the moment. And that's funny because a lot of these myths actually contradict each other. Like our next one, for example, is that Paris is very dirty. And we often see videos like these, which are totally taken out of context. And I live here, so it's very easy for me to fact check. This video, and also this one I'm showing you right now, they've been taken after a specific festival called Fête de la Musique. Fête de la Musique is a big one-of-a-kind event where all the city of Paris turns into a giant party. And like people go really hard, like it lasts all night long, people drink in the street, people have fun in the street, so obviously the day after it's gonna be dirty, but it doesn't stay dirty for long and the city of Paris is gonna clean it. We also see a lot of videos from the garbage strike of 2 years ago. It's a strike and they're not picking up the garbage, but what I see that I don't like is people keep reposting those videos as if it was something that happens every day. I was not in Paris for the great garbage strike of 2023, and I've never seen something like that in 15 years of living in and out of Paris. So that's not a common day occurrence. And you know, if we want to manipulate things, we can do that pretty much everywhere. This is an example of a street near my home. Wow, it's so dirty. Look at all the trash everywhere. Well, it's actually recycling day, so this is normal. The trash is gonna get picked up. Also, I personally think that the city of Paris is doing a lot of efforts. We have this cool app called Dans ma rue. It's an app where you can see all the problems that are around you and where you can report a problem, like for example, some graffiti, some trash in the street, something that's broken. And I've been pretty active there for these videos, and I can tell you things get solved pretty fast. If you follow an issue, they even send you an email with a before and after picture, which I love. And if you have a lot of these videos in your feed, you might have noticed that they have something in common that is very misleading. Every single time they go to working class areas like La Chapelle, Château Rouge, which is the African neighborhood, or Barbès, which is the North African neighborhood, after a market day. And I will not show you the videos doing this because I really dislike how much they cherry pick things. But just know that these people are actively trying to manipulate you. And how do I know these people are lying to you? First, I know these areas well because I worked in one of them for around a year. And also, I love food from different cultures. And I still regularly go there. Like La Chapelle, for example, has amazing Indian food. And Barbès has a great market that's one of the cheapest of Paris. And just to be clear, these are working class and multicultural areas. They are obviously not fancy. But as a reminder, France is a multicultural country, and you can't go to a multicultural area and then complain that there's people from that culture there. And also, that's not the only way we're getting manipulated. I'll show you something way darker very soon. But if you ever see those vids in your feed, just don't engage with them. This just amplifies them. So instead, just report them or just click not interested. And if you want to make your trip to Paris easier, you should learn a bit of French beforehand. And for that, I recommend Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is a long-term partner of the channel, and it's just one of the easiest ways to actually start learning a language, even if you're just starting out. Rosetta Stone is an immersive language learning platform designed to mirror the way you learn your first language. Their dynamic immersion method uses pictures, audio, and native pronunciation tools, and it lets you learn intuitively by putting you in real-world situations you'd actually encounter, like going on vacation or ordering at a restaurant. They also have a feature called True Accent that will help you sound more native. It listens to how you speak and gives you instant feedback on your pronunciation based on millions of native speakers. At the moment, Rosetta Stone is offering an exclusive 60% off their lifetime unlimited language subscription, giving you unlimited access to one of their 25 languages for life with just one payment. So if you've been waiting for the right moment to start learning a language, this is the perfect time. So click the link in the description to check out this limited time exclusive deal. Once again, the next myth is the total opposite, which is that Paris is too fancy. I see a lot of people being intimidated by that and think that Paris is just not for them because it's just too fancy. So yes, it is true that France has a big luxury industry. There are specific areas where you can go and just like buy a bunch of expensive stuff. Like for example, this is Place Vendôme. This is where you can buy very expensive designer jewelry. It also was featured in the TV show Lupin. And while this exists, just know that everyday people simply don't shop there. Also, fancy fancy things are way cheaper in France than in the US. Like seriously, I found out that some things that were normal to me as a French person were like kind of part of how the 1% lives in the US. Like for example, you can find great deals at Michelin-starred restaurants, and I was always going there as a student. You could find stuff that was around 20 euros for lunch at the time. Now it has gotten a bit more expensive, but it's still really worth it. And when my friends visit, I always bring them to fancy restaurants for cheap, and you can find those on my map. Also, I love that in France, culture is very accessible. We have a bunch of free museums. You can buy very cheap tickets for the opera or for plays. This is La Comédie Française. You can see plays for 5 euros. So yeah, don't feel intimidated. Those things are normal in France, and there's people from all walks of life taking advantage of how cheap cultural activities are in France. Another media myth I see a lot, and that kind of deters people from coming to Paris, is this idea that pickpockets are everywhere in Paris. And the reality is that they're mostly in touristy areas. Personally, in 15 years living around Paris, I've only had my phone stolen once. And obviously we're still in a big city, so just be aware of your belongings. Don't leave your bag open. Keep your phone in a zip pocket. We're not in Japan where you can save your spot at a cafe by leaving your latest MacBook on the table. That's for sure. But overall, no need to worry if you're a bit street smart. And also just know that the city of Paris is aware of the problem. There's a lot of police officers in the metro in street clothes. And another thing we're doing a much better job at is speaking English. There's kind of this media myth that no one speaks English in Paris. And obviously this is France, so we speak French. But a lot of people are able to at least help you a tiny bit in English. And Paris is an international city, so there's people who speak a bunch of different languages. But in any case, if you're planning to live somewhere, you should learn the local language. It's so rewarding and you'll have a much better time. If you're just coming to visit, just learn a few words like hello, thank you, and goodbye, and you'll do great. There's also something that's funny. In the comments of my videos, I see a lot of people who complain that we switch to English now, apparently. And I know I'm personally guilty of that, but I know that when I'm doing that, I'm just trying to be kind and help you communicate with me. Alright, listen carefully for our next media myth, because this one is a bit crazy. And I know that if you're on this channel, you might probably not believe this, but feel free to send this video to someone who believes this next media myth, which is that Paris is unsafe. And the first time I heard this myth was around 10 years ago. At the time, I was an investment banking intern in the very chic 8th arrondissement, and that's when Fox News started talking about the no-go zones of Paris. If you don't know what they are, they're something that's totally fabricated, that's supposed to be an area where you shouldn't go because it's too dangerous. And at the time, I was actually living in one of these supposed no-go zones in the 10th arrondissement. And I can tell you firsthand that the main danger there is spending a little bit too much money at bars and restaurants because there's so many good ones there. But yeah, anyway, the city of Paris sued Fox News, who then issued a formal apology. And I personally forgot about it and just brushed it off to people being a bit silly until I saw that it had real-world consequences. I remember there was one of our colleagues from the UK who wrote to us asking if the city was safe and if it was okay to cross Parc Monceau at night. As a reminder, this is Parc Monceau. I don't know what to say, guys, but you can see it. It's a fancy part of town, so if you're afraid of this, you might as well never leave your home because it doesn't get better. So as a general reminder, there are no truly unsafe areas in Paris. You will not get kidnapped, most likely. Just some areas are a tiny bit sketchy and you should just be aware of your belongings, especially if you're in a touristy area. And I get it. If you're not used to being in a big city, it might seem a bit scary at first because you're not yet street smart, but I believe this guy lived in London, so he has literally zero excuses. Also, I receive a lot of comments from people being scared of coming to Paris because they saw something crazy online. And the reason they see something like this is because of something way worse that I first became aware of when I started posting content about the Paris Olympic Games. And I noticed that some of the comments on my videos didn't really pass the vibe check. At first I thought these were just trolls, but then I learned about Operation Doppelganger. So French authorities have documented targeted misinformation attacks targeting France that push narratives like France has fallen or try to pit different groups of our society against each other. And by the way, this is not a theory. This has been confirmed by official sources, which are linked in the description. So Operation Doppelganger basically targets countries like France and the US. And what they do is they impersonate real media outlets to share fake information like this. So for example, example, during the Olympic Games, this is why we had fake rumors that tickets were cancelled for safety reasons. And from my understanding, how it works is that there are several agencies that often come from Russia, but not only, and they're in charge of creating fake content that looks legit. And then they post it, and another part of this agency is in charge of amplifying the content so that it gets picked up by legitimate news outlets and reaches as many people as possible. And personally, that's often something I see on my YouTube channel. I get a lot of bots sharing links to this type of content. And also, if you think you're too smart to get fooled, please think twice, because I personally got tricked. So I don't know if you remember, but in 2023, there was a massive bed bug scare in Paris. And I personally know people who were afraid of taking the metro in Paris for this reason. And just to be clear, bedbugs are real, they are a concern in big cities. But it turns out that this panic was amplified by real accounts linked to Russia, according to Jean-Noël Barrot, who is the French Minister of Foreign Affairs. In particular, they tried to blame it on immigrants and refugees from Ukraine, which is just not true. So yeah, this is just a reminder that when you see someone posting something that looks extreme, please try to not believe it until you've fact-checked it using legitimate sources. So yeah, this type of exaggerated and often fake stories might scare people off from visiting Paris. But what I find interesting is that, again, there's an opposite kind of media myth, which is that Paris is the only place worth visiting in France. And here I have to admit that France is a bit to blame here, because there are so many movies set in Paris that, to be honest, are good marketing for tourism in Paris. And there's this stat from Le Monde, which is the main French newspaper, that says that 4 out of 5 foreign tourists got the urge to visit Paris after seeing a movie or a show related to the city. And that's a shame, because other areas of France are really cool too. I personally come from Toulouse, and I know there's so many things to do there, but I also really like Brittany, the French Alps, the Basque Country, and I think that instead of going to 5 different European countries like a lot of people, you could do a little road trip in France instead. And if you want to learn more about the French culture before you do this, you should watch one of the videos that are on screen right now. I'll see you there. Bye for now.